Okay. 3, 2. Hey there, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Air Station 1 podcast, and welcome aboard, folks. This is going to be a fun one, and we are looking at basically LGBT issues in 2022. And it's a lot to talk about. You know, usually when we have Darren and Mary on the show, we do movie reviews about the, LGBT influences on them. And, we thought it would be kind of not fun, but it'd be kind of important to touch on what's happening in the world right now. I think it's kind of important. And, Darren, Darren's here, of course. And, what are your initial thoughts, before we dive in with both feet?
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I think we've gone quite a lot of ways, and I think America likes to snap back at progress, and that's kind of where the pendulum is right now. And I think a lot is going to depend upon this next upcoming election. The next couple of elections are going to be pivotal to all minorities in America, not just our group. I think
Right.
we are on a precipice of a real big decision in our country right now, without getting too deep into it right now. But yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get to that. We'll get to that because
Oh,
there's some serious stuff going on right now.
oh, very much so. Very, very much so. And that's why Mike and I thought it was important, when we were talking about ideas for this segment for
Mhm.
the fall, we were like going, Darren, what do you think? And he says, it's like, let's stop with the movies. Let's get into some deep
We
issues
we
here.
need we need to talk about some stuff because the one thing that ticks me off is that you'll have friends or acquaintances, coworkers maybe, and even some family members who are not pro LGBTQ, but they'll watch Will and Grace and laugh their butts off about it, and isn't that fun? Ha 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 ha. But they don't support you, and that's a troubling double standard to me. And that's kind of where I am in my head about a lot of things. It's how I am about shopping and eating at a certain fast food chicken place that's prominent in the South. It's how I feel about a great many things. But we'll get
Yeah.
into it. We'll get into
We'll
it.
get into that.
Yeah.
And we also, of course, have Mary here with us tonight. Hey, Mary.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, woohoo!
Yep. I think, I'm very happy you both were able to make it and we were able to arrange this for us to talk about tonight. And folks, this is not going to be a usually, typical ESO. And, so we're going to be getting pretty heavy. So we just wanted to warn you guys at the beginning of this, but you might actually learn something with this. And of course, we couldn't do the show without Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy. Well, you could,
You-
but I'm glad we're not doing that this time.
Well,
Yeah,
we could do the show without you, but
I'm always,
You know.
I'm always glad.
you're
To
always
be included.
grateful. It's a nice thing to be included, to be part of the crowd.
That's true.
It's a good thing. And we want you guys at home to be part of the crowd. Please, feedback at Earth Station 1 is the best way to get in touch with us. And want to say howdy to all our new YouTube subscribers. That's right, folks. We are up on YouTube. So, we're also not only doing this as a podcast, we're doing this at our different segments as, for our YouTube channel. So you get to actually see us when we're talking. So we could be scratching our eyes or, yawning or, not paying attention to what the main topic is. You get to see us do all of that now. All you have to do is go up onto YouTube and put in Earth Station 1. We have a channel right there. Please subscribe. Or if you're still listening to us via audio, please subscribe, to those podcasts too, wherever fine podcasts are found. We would love to hear from you. The one plus that the audio still will always have is we have bumpers. We'll have the promos. We'll also have Ashley's segment. We'll also still have Michelle's segment and also Angela's Geek Girl segment as a plus for our audio listeners. But you also will not hear us mess up, or you'll not hear us goof up or whatever. Where our YouTube, people gets us completely unedited. So they get the different segments, broken up, of course. But, if we mispronounce a word or if I go during the show, or whatever I
It
screw up
upsets
with.
so much.
I know I do. I really do,
We
folks.
we, we get real.
Oh yes, and so YouTube, we're basically calling you the YouTube channel ESO Unplugged or Earth Station One Unplugged or something like that. So it should be kind of cool. And so thank you for everyone who's been popping their heads in, and please subscribe. We would really appreciate it, and give us a thumbs up. We would really, that's another way for more people to find us.
Mm-hmm.
Feedback is always welcome, as we like to say. And I'll be very curious to see the feedback we get for this episode, because this is not norm. And I like doing stuff like that keeps our listeners on their toes. And, we've been doing this.
Keeps us on our toes.
We've been doing this for 12 and a half years, folks. So we need stuff to keep us on our toes. So, of course, we also want to give a huge shout out to our patrons. Our patrons always get our episodes before everybody else does. And, we've gotten some brand new patrons since Dragon Con. So thank you for everyone who's been supporting Earth Station One and the ESO network. We love you guys so much. Kind of a heart.
Yeah, it's kind of there. Yeah,
it's a broken heart in my case.
Look at that! You being visual and everything.
I know.
Wow. It's almost like you're on video.
I know. Wow. It's pretty amazing. So it's pretty cool when we, our patrons are great, and you could be a patron too for as little as $1 a month. We have 4 different levels: $1, $5, $10, and $15. And we might actually eventually start the $20 level, which will be called the pie connoisseur level. So we'll see about that. But
I have some in the fridge right now. So
me too. Yes.
Oh, you lucky thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. They got it special delivery last night, so it's awesome. So, we rung in a new year, you could say, last night. Some of us.
We did.
So it was a lot of fun, and so definitely patreon.com/ESO network. Sign up, join in, and it'd be great. Also, a big shout out to our friends over at Tifosi Optical. Tifosi Optical has amazing sunglasses, gamer glasses, anything you might need for blocking blue light, or if you have medical needs, or if you work in the medical field, you can actually get face shields, where you can also get some safety goggles. It's pretty awesome. All you have to do is go to tifosi-optics.com, and while you're there, you can get a nice 10% discount on everything, not just one item, but your whole order. If you get more than one thing, all you have to do is put in the code EarthStation1. Pretty cool. So check it out, tifosi-optics.com. Okay, Darren. This is where we're going to jump in with both
We're going to jump in.
It's all on you.
Yeah, why is it always on me?
No pressure.
The most dramatic one here, that's why.
All right, first of all, let me preface this by saying that no LGBTQer on their own speaks for the entire community. This is not, we didn't take a poll, we didn't take a survey. This is just how Mary and I feel about things, and that is our perspective on things. And we are, we're not the party crowd LGBTQers anymore. I go out and party. I need the day off from work tomorrow, that kind of thing. So, it's like, it's a once in a while thing, but it's not in every
we're
weekend.
Old.
We are. We're old. We're old. We've seen some stuff, y'all. We've seen some stuff.
We've seen the shiz.
Yeah, we have. Boy, howdy. So I think it's important to note, our victories while we talk about this, and let's remember our victories. Just to run down the last few court cases that the Supreme Court has gone through that have been positive for our people. We got a big victory for rights to privacy way back in the 70s, and that was huge. Not a court case, but in early 70s, I think it was 74, homosexuality was stripped from the DSMB, which is the statement of, hey, you're mentally ill, you're in this book. Homosexuality used to be in that book. It finally got stripped out. And then there were the great sodomy cases, Hardwick versus Bowers, where the Supreme Court affirmed that the government had a right to stop you from committing sodomy at the Supreme Court level. And then there was Lawrence v. Texas, where the Supreme Court had changed enough and times had changed enough where they said, no, really, you don't need to be involved in that, government, with 2 adults who are consenting in the privacy of their own home. They have the right to do whatever they want to sexually among themselves. It's scary that we didn't have that until the 2000s.
Yeah.
The difference is straight people were never convicted of that. It was used to convict LGBT people or T people who were engaging in same-sex relations at the time.
Well, it was an excuse. It's
Yeah,
always an
totally.
excuse. It's just an
Totally.
excuse to oppress people. I mean, if it's
Mhm.
not that, it's something else.
Totally. I mean, back in the Stonewall days, you could be arrested for not wearing 3 articles of your gender's clothing. What is
Really?
that? What? Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
What,
Yes.
what is,
I mean,
you
people
know,
were rounded up.
That's the
but
thing.
that's the thing,
you're-
because
if you're a
some
woman,
clothes
you're
are
wearing
so, you know, if you're
bra,
wearing a pair of jeans or something,
Panties,
you know.
high
Yeah.
heel shoes. What defines gendered clothing? And a cop's not gonna know. It was just a way for them to pick up homosexuals, arrest them, bail them, etc. It was a racket. It was oppression. It was government sanctioned harassment,
Yeah.
basically. So we've been through some stuff, and of course, then free love in the 70s, and then we get the AIDS crisis in the 80s. So we learned then, as LGBTQers, that we had to take care of ourselves because the government was not going to do it for us. The government at that time was quite happy to not send any funding our way to stop this horrible disease from taking our brothers' lives, basically. There were other people too. I mentioned brothers because the vast majority of the victims were gay men. There were, of course, other people involved in that, hemophiliacs, drug addicts, or just sharing a needle by accident, or getting a bad blood donation made you HIV positive back then, and there was no real help for that until the mid 90s. So we went through a plague basically for 15, 16 years with very little help from the government.
Yeah, with pretty much zero support. In fact, I would call it anti-support.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
I really
they went
would.
out of their way to, they really did not care that gay people were dying.
Mhm.
And they made that perfectly clear. Though I will say it was a turning point in the gay movement when things like ACT UP formed.
Oh yeah.
People got angry, and rightfully so, and needed to get angry.
Totally. We finally found our spine,
Right.
to say, hey, government, this is wrong. This is morally unjust what you're not doing here. You're not taking care of your people. We pay taxes just like everybody else. And then we move from the 2000s when we get Lawrence v. Texas, where sodomy laws are struck down by the federal government. And then it's a battle for marriage rights. It's a battle for being able to live and have a life with the person you love without being discriminated against. And one of the biggest things that was going on at that time was people were entered into long-running relationships, and their partners were passing away from old age because they had been in a relationship since the 70s. And they didn't meet until they were 40 or 50 or 60. And the government treated the two of you like you were roommates. You had no rights. If something was left to you, inheritance laws did not protect you. And so everything was double taxed by the government, basically, because you had to pay the estate tax and then you had to pay the personal tax on the property that you received. Whereas if it was a husband and a wife, everything would just have naturally switched over.
Right.
Right.
I mean, it's really just another form of oppression.
Basically. So we got the Windsor case. Edie Windsor won her case to say, hey, the government unjustly taxed us because we were married in Canada. And that went through. And then we got the Obergefell case, which said, no, we're going to have gay marriage in America and not going to be. The question always comes up, hey, we're married in Massachusetts, but if we drive to Missouri, how many states do we go through where we're not married suddenly?
Mm-hmm.
And a married couple, when they leave a state, they don't have to suddenly go get remarried in the next state to be considered married in that state. The marriage travels with them. So this made no sense as to why there were these double standards going on in the country. Either you're married or you're not married. Pick one. And if you're not married, then you have to say why you're not married. And that case was one based upon the fact that a lot of straight couples get married and they don't have kids. The argument was, well, what about the children? Tons of people get married either after the woman is no longer able to have children because menopause has occurred, the man is infertile, or God forbid they choose not to have children.
How dare they?
which goes back to that right of privacy where it says the government has no right to interfere with your personal life. Government intrusion into the day-to-day running of your personal life, the government has no intrinsic reason to get involved in that. If you were to break a law that affects other people, that's different. You're doing something to other people without consent. But this is between two consenting adults. So the government really didn't have a place to stand in there. And one of the cases that I remember most prominently was there was a family, two lesbians and their kids, that were getting on a cruise ship. And one of the women had a horrible brain aneurysm and was going to pass away. And the hospital in Florida refused to let her partner in the room with her because they were not married. And they had their marriage certificate, all their court documents faxed to the hospital, and the hospital said, we don't care because you're in an anti-gay state. You can fax us whatever you want to. It will not matter.
I don't think people realize, you know, when you say things like that from today's perspective, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, that was an isolated case. No. It really was not. When, you know, during the AIDS crisis, that happened over and over again. I knew so many people that happened to, where their partners were not allowed in, or we had to sneak them in, or come up with some sort of fantastical story in order for them to be able to see their partner. I mean, it was added stress that did not need to be there.
Totally.
It was cruelty. It was just outright
cruelty. Absolute cruelty. And you have people who never came out to their families and discover after they die, because the police call the next of kin, and your roommate is not your next of kin.
Right.
So the families comes in there, they realize what's been going on all these years. They kick the roommate to the curb. They may have lived there for 25 years.
I mean, there were people who were not allowed, and I knew some of them, who were not allowed to go to their partner's funerals.
Exactly.
Because the parents kept them away.
Yep.
Because the body went to the parents.
Yep.
Not to the partner who had been with them for 20 years. And so can you imagine not being able to mourn your partner
properly,
being kept away from the funeral? I mean, again, it's just oppressive cruelty.
It's asinine. It's completely asinine.
But these are the things that we have fought against so hard to get these rights. And of course, we still have a lot more to go, because we can get married now, but you could put a picture of you and your spouse on your desk at work and get fired because they don't want gay people to work in, because you don't have employment protection. There are like 35 states. You're not protected if you are a gay employee, period. That's the majority of states. You know, you have to live somewhere that's fairly liberal in order to get that protection. And gay people are everywhere. We live everywhere. From rural Georgia to, you know, isolated mountainous Wyoming and Montana, there are queer people in your community. And that's what I think people have a hard time seeing, because unless we choose to self-identify by the way we talk, the way we move, the way we dress, we are camouflaged in your world. We just look like another person, and straight people assume that everyone they see is straight. Heteroassumptiveness is what I like to call it. Everybody's straight to a straight person until you prove to them that you're not. I was in line to get Chinese food at a fast food Chinese place yesterday. And the guy looked at the woman in front of me and said, "Oh, are these two together?" Assuming that we are a dating straight couple. And I'm like, "Nope, I'm gay." He just went, "Oh, don't make assumptions, dude. We're standing 5 feet apart. We weren't even close to each other. I'm still doing social distancing. Why would you make the assumption that we're a couple?"
Yeah, I mean,
but this happens all the time.
All the time. Even, I mean, it's no different now, actually, than it was growing up. I mean, I'm not sure that has changed, just the assumption people always go to.
They do. And until you correct them verbally, they're going to keep making that assumption. So I try to make that correction in a nice way, but still in a way that says, don't make assumptions, dude. Don't do that, because it is just as offensive to straight people when they're confused for being gay as when I'm confused for being straight. I'm like, no. I mean,
on the other hand, there's a reason why passing is a thing. I mean, you know, it can be very dangerous to.
It still is dangerous in some places, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, you never know. I mean, even in what are so-called more liberal areas, you never know when somebody's gonna, you know, come after you because they have some sort of chip on their shoulder. I mean, it certainly happened to me before. It's happened to everyone I know
Yeah.
at some point.
I mean, there are stories of guys coming in from, outer counties going into metro areas just to gay bash people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're going to do. They're going to go to the gay area of town. They've got their baseball bats. They're going to pull up in a truck or whatever, and they're just going to beat the first person they see. Because isn't that fun?
Yeah,
That
I mean,
happens all the time.
Yeah, when I was in college, and I went to an art school. I went to the Rhode Island School of Design, which, let me tell you, was a very liberal place to be in the 80s. And I had a friend there, and he was beat up very severely, all because they thought he was gay. Now, the irony is he was not gay. He just happened to look a certain way that they thought meant he was gay.
He did conform to what a straight guy should look like. So
exactly. So he was walking from, the auditorium to his dorm, and he was jumped for no reason, simply because they thought he was gay. That was not an isolated incident.
The reason was
in their minds there was a reason. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, because I was just about to say, it does permeate beyond that scope, because yes, it's not like anybody confirms, if they are, they're not, because I know that, and it's all that definition of whatever masculinity is, right? Toxic masculinity now, I think it's called, but still, like, because there were several times that I, growing up, because I was sensitive, because I didn't do this, because I wasn't good at sports, because I was an outsider. I mean, I was ridiculed and labeled. And that happened like even into my adulthood. Whereas it's like, oh, I get all the benefits without actually getting the good stuff.
Life is unfair.
Life's very unfair.
But that's how, like, it to me, it's like it starts so young, because like that term of like, oh, that's so gay, is like a negative connotation from day one. It seems
that's ubiquitous.
Exactly. Same way.
Such an uphill battle to fight that.
Oh, exactly. So what? Same way in elementary school or junior high and stuff. People get, oh, you're a fag, or you're
Find me an 80s comedy without the word fag in it. Dare you?
Yeah. Exactly.
PG-13 and above. Go for it. Find me one.
I mean,
exactly.
And it's never used as a term of endearment.
No.
No. I mean, I remember being 6 years old and in first grade, and they were I don't know, it was raining outside or something, so we couldn't go out to recess. So when that happened, you went to the auditorium and you did dancing, which for them, I mean, this is like a Southern, little elementary school. It was like square dancing.
Yeah.
And of course, there were more girls than boys. So some of the girls would have to dance together. And it was, you were just, if you had to dance with another girl, then you were a pariah. You were you were on the outs. All because, that two girls could never dance together. That's just wrong. We were 6 years old.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you how indoctrination works. Now, in my family, we don't use any words. We're a good Southern family. We've been here for a while. There are words that a lot of Southern families use, and ours does not use it. At least my immediate family does not use it. My nephew went to kindergarten this year for the first time, and he popped the N-word out.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's how quick it starts. Someone else's family let their kid use that word or toss that word around, and then suddenly our nephew's got it in his vocabulary, and we're like, whoa, that is inappropriate. And we made him apologize right then and there to the teacher, and we corrected that behavior immediately. But this is how it happens. All it takes is one hateful person in a group to poison the entire apple cart, and it happens quicker than you can imagine. Because anything to make you feel better than everybody else in the room, right?
Exactly.
Anything that will help you label yourself as being superior or better is a great thing for you, and screw everybody else. And that's kind of where we are right now in the country. That's what we're dealing with, really, on a very, very visceral level.
Yeah, well, it's a systemic selfishness
Totally.
that has really permeated our culture, and has, you know, there's a reason why we're like, the world is on the road to fascism right now, and we can still change that, but
we have to act. We have to
act. We cannot sit by and watch it happen. I mean, look what happened in Italy just yesterday.
Yep. Italy has the most right-wing, I guess you call them the premier president or whatever, prime minister since Mussolini. Just got elected yesterday.
Yeah, yes. So it's not impossible, folks. It really isn't.
It starts at home. It starts at home with the family and with the people that you associate with, and you need to recognize the signs of when someone is on the fringe of being a little, you know, crazy. Because there's a lot of entitlement in this country. I'm sorry, you're not entitled to jack. You hopefully work hard. You hopefully play by the rules. You hopefully get to where you need to go. But when you find yourself putting a foot on the neck of the person in front of you, you got a problem.
Well, that's part of the thing.
When it's an entire group you're putting your foot on.
But Darren, the other thing is, people always like to make themselves feel superior by putting others down. It's been that way, and it's learned. Forever. Yeah, it's been learned through the schools. It's
learned behavior.
Families. Yeah.
And I mean, it's learned just by the fact that our identities are erased in history. Like, when you're going to school, you're not learning gay history. You're probably not learning Black history.
No.
You're getting a very white male definition of, and I mean a certain kind of white, privileged white male, probably more wealthy than most people. You know, that's the version of history you're getting. And it when you're a child, you do not realize that history is subjective. History is written by the victors.
Exactly. And it is written by usually people who have an agenda.
Exactly.
You know,
that's true.
They want to say, and they willfully omit things for whatever reason. We have people omitting facts now in history books that I'm like, are you kidding me? Because this actually happened. I was floored. I have a college education, and I did not hear about the Tulsa massacre until the Watchmen series this past year.
Oh, a lot of people didn't know it.
I know.
Yeah, I think.
But I'm like, why is that not being taught?
I think I'm with you.
Because it happened to Black people.
Well, there was an entire town wiped out in Florida. You know, in a similar vein.
It's not just there.
It's certainly not taught in schools, especially now.
No, not at all. And we can forget the fact that, you know, our country is, and this will tick people off. Sorry, y'all. But if you're a white person with no Indian in your blood, you're an immigrant. You came here somehow, some way, somehow.
Yeah, and you're not a native. Came over on a boat.
Yep. Came over on a boat, walked up from South America. I don't care. But you got here somehow. And we have a lot of damage karmically from our country that we have done to people who were different, who didn't fit in, who weren't white and male and Christian. And you can go down the list of the checklist
who are in the way.
Who is in power? Who has the power? That kind of thing.
And like you said, history is written by the victors.
And the reason things are cycling back into fascism right now is because that group that has been in power is losing their grip on that power. And they are very afraid of that. And so they're lashing out.
The majority is starting to become the minority in a lot of places. And they're so afraid of what's to come. And there's nothing they could do to fight it. It's eventually going to happen. But it's going to get very ugly before it does.
Oh, it's going to get very ugly. And everybody needs to be prepared for that, I think. You can't just go about your business without being on guard right now. I think you have to be on guard, especially with, and we can get into this in the next segment that we're talking about, because based upon the current laws that we have, especially here in Georgia, And then a certain, you may have heard, Supreme Court case ruling.
Gee, I wonder which one you're talking about.
We may have to talk about that a bit.
Yes.
Because it's not just about that.
No, that is a big part of just human rights as a whole.
Yeah. So we're going to get to that in our next segment. So we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
Perfect.
Awesome. Good discussion.
Yep.
So far, so good.